I got this to pop up finally. All right, let me adjust this. All right, okay, there we go.
That he was going to rent. My mother thought it was a great idea for me, my sister, and my father and my mother to bond. So that's exactly what happened. We rented a cabin for a few days. We took school off on Friday to get a head start getting there, which I absolutely had no issue with. We got there and it was sure cold. Well, it was almost December, so I guess it made sense that it was that cold.
I don't get why
Anyways,
you
we got
guys
all
are
set
like
up and
going to a
decided where we would sleep.
cabin in the
We ate
middle of
dinner
winter.
and then we
First
got
off,
all set up for
cabins to
bed, and
me
we were just
anyway,
thinking about what we'd
they're
do
like
tomorrow.
okay. Can we talk
We
about
got there
that for
kind
a
of late,
sec?
so we
Like,
couldn't do much
really?
on the first.
Okay, let's really talk about that. Me personally, I don't think going into the woods, especially when it's cold out, I don't think that's a good idea. Like during the summer, I get that because, like, it's more warmer outside and it's summertime, and that makes more sense. I mean, yeah, it makes sense to go to a cabin in the winter, but no thanks. I would not want to go out there by myself at all, even if I'm with my family. Let's
First day.
continue.
That first night, though, I heard noises outside. It sounded kind of like footsteps. I looked out the window and saw nothing, so I figured it must have been an animal. I just tried to get back to sleep, but about 15 minutes later I heard it again. I woke my sister up, which she was about 11 at the time, and she heard it as well. We both walked over to the window and saw something out there. We weren't quite sure what it was. We decided it'd be best for us to not see us, so we went back to sleep. I had a
I
hard
wouldn't
time
go back to
sleeping that
sleep
night,
after
and so
that.
did my sister. When we eventually woke up, my mother was inside making breakfast and my father was outside. I asked my mom if I could go outside with my dad, and she told me sure, while my sister stayed inside and waited for my mother to finish breakfast. I walked outside and my father was talking to some man, a short, chubby man. He had a shaved head and was wearing a veteran cap. He looked really nervous too, for some reason. He was sweating a lot, even though it was freezing outside. I walked over to him and my father, and my dad looked at me and said, "Oh, this is my son," and told him my name. The man then looked at me and said, "Hey, nice to meet you, kid. My name's Patrick." He just smiled and looked at me. I also smiled and greeted him back, and maybe it was rude at the time, but I was just a kid, so I asked him, "You look kind of scared.
No,
Are you
you're not
alright?"
wrong for doing that.
And he kind of
Honestly,
coughed and replied with,
in any situation like this, if you're a kid, um, this goes for any kid. Honestly, this goes for anyone. If you feel uncomfortable with someone, you don't have to speak to them. You don't have to say, "Hey." You have every right. You have free will. So, hey.
"Oh yeah, I'm fine. I just went through shell shock because I'm a veteran, as I couldn't tell already with the cap that he was wearing, but he seemed normal then." My father seemed to really like this guy for some reason, and I guess at first I liked him too. He told my father he had also rented a cabin with his family and that they were really close to us, so he decided to introduce himself. My father invited him inside for breakfast and he stayed, and everything was normal. I went outside to play after that with my father and Patrick. While playing outside, I fell and scraped my knee and started crying.
Ugh.
My dad was
Ow,
inside at the
ow,
time,
ow.
which was a bad time for him to be inside. My mother was calling for him, and he ran inside while I was out there with Patrick. Patrick then ran over to me and told me to come with him to his cabin because he had band-aids. I agreed and I went with him. I wasn't a very smart kid.
Oh
We
no.
talked about what I liked doing and I told him about the video games that I played and stuff like that. Then
That's a
things got
bad
weird.
idea in any
He
any
asked me what
like
shoe size I
scenario.
was and
Don't
how
go
old
with
I
someone
am.
that you don't know.
Didn't know my shoe size,
I would
so
have
I told him
crawled
that, but
to my
I told him
father.
my age. He just kind of chuckled and said something along the lines of, "Good to know." Also, his cabin was nowhere near ours.
Oh,
It was way
that's
back,
terrifying.
at least 20 minutes to walk there. I was tired, and there was no point in getting the bandit anymore, but I still decided to keep going since I had walked too long. We entered the cabin, and he told me to go in first, so I did. As soon as I walked in, I realized something. There was nobody in there. No family. I asked him where his family was, and he didn't answer, pretending like he didn't hear me. He then locked the door. I was starting to feel
Oh
frightened.
no.
He told me, "I'll be right back with the band-aid, kiddo." He then walked into the kitchen and pulled one out of somewhere, and then walked back and told me to have a seat and that he'd put it on.
Oh no! Oh god! Here goes the advertisements. But what? Oh my goodness! You mean to tell me? First off, I just want to say this: if I ever find myself going camping with my parents or anything, if I ever think I'm going to go outside with a stranger, sadly mistaken, because I won't be doing that. I won't be doing that at all. I literally won't be doing that. But that's really crazy though. Like that's really sad because now he's probably gonna get hurt, and there's nothing he can do about that. So I'm gonna hope and pray that he's okay. Alrighty, okay,
He sat
let's
down and
get back
played on
into
me.
that. That's
He
scary.
also held my leg with his other hand and rubbed up and down and told me, "You're rather muscular, kid. I like that."
Oh,
I kind of
oh,
got scared and I immediately stood up.
yeah, I would get
He
scared
asked me
too.
what was
Cause what
wrong
do
and
you
I told him
mean?
nothing and that my leg was feeling much better.
Right?
He then said that I thought my parents would be worried sick about me and that I should hurry back, but he insisted that I stayed a little longer and ate there.
Yes, yes. Finally,
I
someone
really
who is
didn't want
smart.
to, but I was alone, and if I ran, I don't think I could find my way back to the cabin. The door was locked too, so I just agreed and decided to eat with him and get it over with fast. He asked me how much I weighed, and I guessed about 70 pounds. He then had a smile go across his face. He nodded and said, "Perfect weight." I asked him what that meant, and he just kept smiling at me. I
Okay.
was really weirded out when I asked him if I could go. He told me no and that things were just getting started and I shouldn't miss out on the fun. He had such a weird tone when he said that, too.
Oh, no, thank you.
I
I don't
then
care
heard a
how
big
much pain
bang
I'm
come from
in.
the bedroom.
I'm getting
It
up
was a
and I'm
closed
running.
door.
I'm getting up to
Patrick stood up and
run.
looked kind
No,
of
thank
angry.
you.
He walked into the room and shut the door behind him, and I heard him yelling, "Did I tell you that you could move? No, stay where you are, I have company," or something like that. He then walked out with a smile on his face and shut the door slowly. "Sorry about that, that was just my wife. She's really sick and not allowed to be near visitors today." He was smiling while saying that also. I really
Oh,
wanted to go,
I don't think
and
that's
I
his
looked around
wife.
the
I
room
think
and
that's
noticed there were clothes
another.
everywhere. It was really messy.
If you haven't put the
He must have
pieces
been living out
together,
here.
I mean,
At
I
that moment,
have,
his
but.
wife walked out of the room.
Oh, no,
"I'm
it is his
hungry,"
wife.
she
Oh,
said.
okay.
At this point, the man looked pissed. That's when he yelled, "Get back in there." His wife was extremely pale and looked like she had been crying a lot. She was sniffing and had red circles around her eyes.
Oh my god, poor woman.
She looked at me, then walked back in the room. I asked him where his kids were, and he didn't answer. He told me that he had kids' clothes that he wanted me to try on, and that was the last straw for me.
He was going to
I had to get out
kidnap
of that
him.
situation, and I didn't know
Oh my
how.
god.
I started crying, and then he hugged me. He told
It's
me it'll
actually
be okay,
terrifying that there
that
are
nothing is
people
going to
like this
happen,
out
and to
here
just
in
try
the
on the
world.
clothes. He walked in the back room, and I thought this would be the perfect time for me to leave.
Yeah,
I
get up
unlocked
and
his door
run
and I tried to
now.
leave as quietly as I could. I didn't even care if I got lost anymore. I just didn't want to take any more chances with Patrick, if that was even his name. I had a feeling that he had been lying. I mean, he lied about having kids, so who knows what else.
He probably
I
lied
was
about
in
a
the
lot of
woods trying to
things.
find my way back. I was still close to his house, close enough to hear his shouting. I heard him yelling stuff to his wife, things along the lines of, "Where the hell did he go?" And I knew I shouldn't have left him alone. You
Oh.
probably let him leave. I could have sworn I heard him call her a few nasty names a couple times. Then it happened. I stopped in my tracks. I heard footsteps. I went and hid behind a tree and looked in his direction. And there he was, standing outside, and he seemed to be looking for me. I was far enough away to where I could barely see him, but I could tell he was looking for me. He then stepped out in the forest, and I heard him shouting, "Hey kid, it's okay, you can come back now. You don't have to try on the clothes. And I have toys back in my cabin. All you have to do is come back."
Oh, no,
I
thank
then
you.
started running. I just ran as fast as I could in a straight line in hopes to find somebody in my family. I was running away and I thought I heard shouting, but I didn't stop to hear it. Then after about an hour of running, I finally saw a cabin. It was my cabin. I ran to it. My father was outside looking around for me. I ran up to him crying and told him Patrick wasn't a good guy and that he was really weird and how he was touching my legs and stuff.
Oh,
My
God.
father immediately called the person he rented the cabin from. My father looked at me and told me to never follow any stranger ever again.
Yeah, don't follow
We
anybody
immediately
that's
left that
strange
day
to you
and asked
anyway.
for a
Even if
refund the
they
next
are
day.
first
The
off,
guy
I just
renting
want to
them
say
out
it could be a
apologized.
family relative.
The
Stay
men
with
that
your
owned the
parents
cabin
at all
rentals called the
time.
police and they went back there and checked the cabin, and there was nobody back there, not even his wife. His clothes and belongings were still there, is what they told us, but nothing really happened after that. They
Oh
asked
no.
questions and left, and they never called us or told us anything about him ever again. Patrick most likely wasn't his real name, and he probably wasn't a veteran. I just want to know what happened to him and his wife, and how he even got a wife in the first place, and how and why he lived back in that cabin. He seemed to have lived there for a while. I guess he left because he figured the police would be coming after him since he didn't rent the cabin. So many questions that will never get answered.
Shopify is a platform that
Oh,
helps
okay.
entrepreneurs get
Well,
started down the path they want.
that's definitely something. Okay, that's what can we just talk about that for a moment? Angel Kitties, listen to me and listen to me now. If you ever find yourself, and this goes for the younger Angel Kitties, by the way, if you ever find yourself in a situation like this, please tell a trusted adult, have a phone on you, keep any sort of device. I'm not going to really say weapon, but something to keep yourself protected. Also, keep the right state of mind. If you feel uncomfortable and you know someone isn't safe, please stay with your parents at all times because sometimes it can lead to things like this, and that's terrifying. That's terrifying for anyone, even me. So yeah, but let's continue with this video.
My friend Lily has a cabin on a lake in Washington, and one summer she brought me and her cousin Evan. It had been a great couple of days, and on the last night, like we had the past few nights, we went fishing at the lake,
Why do they all
which was only a
result
5-minute walk
inside
from
of
our cabin.
a cabin?
It was around 7
This is
p.m., and
terrifying.
fishing was perfect at that hour. To get to the beach, though, you had to walk through a small section of woods. There was a trail in the middle that during the day was occupied by women jogging with strollers and kids running to another nearby beach. Our beach was a bit more secluded, and there was no trail to get there. The hill down was steep and slippery, and on the way back, it took climbing on all fours to get to the top. We stayed at that beach until about 8:30, just sitting in the dark relaxing. We were pretty good kids, and mostly just sat on a log chatting. It was one of those weird situations where you suddenly look around and you realize that it has gotten dark. I told Lily and Evan that we should probably get home. They agreed and we packed up our gear. This was the latest that we had stayed out at the beach, so my overactive and scary movie-powered imagination, I was a little bit scared. We calmly and silently for some reason walked up the hill. I told him that it was pretty creepy here at night, and then Evan made it 10 times worse. He told us a story about these mountain men who had
Oh
been around
God,
in the 60s
that's the
and were
Evan.
basically
Why?
these men who lived in the woods and were in some sort of cult. He said that they had murdered people all over the area for their cult,
Oh
and
my
some of them were
goodness.
still around. Internally, I was hysterical and terrified, but externally, I basically told Evan to shut up and to stop trying to scare us. As we started across the trail, Evan looked to our right for some reason. He stopped dead in his tracks and looked scared.
Yeah,
Lily
Evan.
told him to stop being stupid,
Okay.
and the two of
One
us started to climb
one
the
moment. Evan, no, thank you. Why? Why? If we're already walking in a forest at night or on a beach at night, why? Why say something scary to make it even worse? And then we're not having any conversation at all. Like, why? For what reason did you need to make it 10 times worse?
deepest part, the all-fours climbing part of the hill. Evan grabbed us both by the arm very forcefully and made us look where he was looking. At first I couldn't see anything and I just wanted to get home. But then
Yeah,
my eyes
okay,
adjusted,
Evan,
and I
you
saw
would
a
have to
large
let
man.
go.
I'm assuming he was a man because of the shape,
Oh
stumbling toward us pretty
my
slowly.
God, that actually scared me
Who
because
knows what his intentions were,
there's like
but
a
being
glare,
kids, we
so I
freaked
couldn't
out
see
and
that.
scrambled up the hill as fast as we could. We all turned around at some point and saw that the dude was running, well, stumbling quicker toward us while we climbed. He got pretty close to us until we finally got over the hill and sprinted across the road to the cabin.
That's terrifying.
At first, it sounds fairly innocent, but we all had a deep feeling of dread when we saw him on that trail. I didn't feel like he had good intentions. Once we got to the cabin, we threw our gear on the porch and ran to the front door, and of course it was locked. But there was a secret knock that her family had showed that the person at the door was a member of the family or a friend. It was a fairly complicated rhythm, and both Lily and Evan banged on the door to the family knock. I remember just looking around trying to see if the creep had followed us, but I saw nothing. We were let in, and in a panic we told the adults the whole story. They said it was probably just some guy who we probably made feel bad. We disagreed,
Oh, no.
but we felt safe in the locked cabin with the grown-ups. The cabin had a walkout basement, basically like a lower story. Not a creepy basement. It had a door and windows, where Lily and I slept on bunk beds.
If it's a
We
basement,
went down
it's
to get
still
into
terrifying.
pajamas. After about 5 minutes of calming down together, we heard the family knock. I thought it was Evan trying to come in from the stairway door, so I said, "Come in," but no response. It happened again, but this time we realized where it was coming from. The window outside. Lily and I
Oh,
turned completely
no.
white and stared at each other with that horrible feeling of terror in your stomach. It happened again, but a little more frantically. We both ran to the stairway door and booked it up to the living room where Lily's
Oh no,
family
that's
and Evan
actually
were.
terrifying.
We told them all what we had heard through the panicked tears, and Evan went downstairs to listen. He said it was definitely the knock. While Lily's uncle, older brother, and older cousin all gathered flashlights to go look outside, we heard it again, but on the front door this time. Everyone looked at the door and huddled together. It happened once or twice more, and Lily's uncle finally decided to call the police.
See, this is why you couldn't pay me to go on a family trip to a cabin. You could not pay me. No amount of money could get me to go.
He said,
Okay.
"I'm not sure what their intentions are, but there is someone trying to get into my cabin," to the police. The knocking went on for another 2 minutes or so, and finally it stopped. 5 minutes after the call, the police showed up with a comforting loud pounding and "police" yelled through the door. To make sure, Lily's uncle looked outside a window and saw other police searching around for the creeper. The policeman asked us 3 kids what had happened in the woods, and we told him the whole thing.
I blame Evan. Evan,
We
you
never
summoned
found
that guy.
anyone, but those banging knocks on the door
I
will
blame
stick with him
Evan.
forever. The officer said that it was probably just some guy who was twisted and wanted to freak some kids out.
Yeah,
What
not
creeped
only
me
just
out
twisted,
the
but
most was the fact
terrifying.
that the person had memorized a complicated family knock. All 3 of us slept on the floor together that night.
Okay, well, angel kitties. That's something to keep you up at night, definitely. Um, wow, this Valentine's Day has been interesting. Okay, this is very very scary. It has me scared too as well. Um, so with that being said, I think we're gonna conclude it there on that story time. If you want to see more reactions by me, and if you want to see me play Marvel Rivals without any scuff or errors, please follow and check out my YouTube channel at Love Calypsian. Alrighty, Angel Cats, I have to get going. So,